Good morning. Oh boy, I've got my beans and brews today. It's a beans and brews kind of day. And we are going to talk about another archetype. Sticking with the court, we are going to go into the knight archetype. This queen loves her some knight archetype. This is in the light. This is the man who is romantic. He is honorable. He has high integrity, lives by principles. Whenever I think about the light of the knight archetype, lives by principles is the number one thing that comes to mind for me. Follows their leader, their king, their queen, their cause, really wants to find a cause to hand their life to. A lot of times people with this archetype are idealistic. They really crave things going a certain way. They want to see things work. They want to see people live by high ideals. And that can be kind of tricky in today's world. So what you can see sometimes is the knight archetype getting disappointed over and over again and getting very, very cynical about it. That to me is one of the shadows of the knight. Now, I've probably mentioned this before, but I want you guys to understand that everyone who delves into archetypes has a slightly different take on them. My brand of understanding archetypes has come not just from studying them in books. In fact, most of it has come from interacting with people and paying attention since I was a very small child, paying attention to the energies of different types of people. Different flavors is what I'll usually call them. To me, every archetype kind of has a flavor to it, an energy to it. And the knight energy is something I have always loved since I was a little girl. I was always very drawn to men who had this, where they wanted to protect, where they wanted to make sure that everything was okay. And that I feel like a lot of knight archetypes, even join the military, a higher cause, right? They're always looking for that higher cause that they can get behind. And in the shadow, the knight will either, like I mentioned before, become very cynical and bitter. And they will, get angry at women, talk poorly about women because they have been hurt. I always say, you show me a cynic and I'll show you an idealist who has been very, very disappointed. They will find a cause to follow that is not honorable. They will give their life over to a cause that is destructive. So terror, like a terrorist, like that is knight energy. I give my whole self. I give my whole loyalty towards something. But in the shadow is not a good thing. It's destructive. It's violent. I also see the shadow of the knight as somewhat the shadow of the rescuer, which is an archetype we're definitely going to talk about because it's a very common one. But where they just want to save and that they do it by enabling. So, you'll see this, sometimes I call them Captain Save-A-Ho. Probably not very appropriate, but I never claimed to be appropriate. But they want to save people. They want to rescue people instead of really truly empower people. But that's all in the shadow. And I mentioned in the king video that although in a lot of stories, the king and the queen end up together, in real life, I very, very, very rarely see the king and queen archetype work together romantically. Usually, the king archetype will find themselves a princess, which we will also go into. That's going to be our next archetype video. But the queen archetype usually prefers the knight. And definitely in my case, that's what I have. Gideon, every time I think of the knight archetype, it's Gideon that comes to mind. He is classic knight archetype. Because the knight is willing to be very loyal and to serve, and they still have their own light, their own brilliance, their own genius, but they are not so concerned with their opinions always being right. There's not the same type of ego that the king has. And so with the king and the queen, you'll get archetypes, you'll get a lot of clash. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. We have to do it my way. No, we have to do it my way. You basically get two demanding people. And my joke about this is, and I have actually experienced this, bless his heart, my ex-husband is king archetype, definitely. And so where it's like, hey, I need you to kind of drop everything and take care of me. And it's like, then they're like, hey, no, I need you to drop everything and take care of me. And that's why the king and the queen, unless they're both totally in the light with their archetype and really working together out in the world. So it's like a power couple, right? Unless they're doing that, it's not going to be a great match. And when I see these people end up together, usually it's quite filled with contention and friction. So queens and knights do really well together. And that dynamic has to be watched, that the knight doesn't lose himself in the very overwhelming big personality of the queen. So the best way to have this happen, the healthiest way for a knight to be, if you are watching this and you are a knight, or if you know somebody close to you is a knight, is if they have their own cause, something that they really care about, a passion of theirs. And it doesn't even have to be a career. It could be a hobby. But knights need something to follow. They need something to give their life to. And it's really important that they have something to do that with besides their romantic relationship. They need to have both. Very, though, chivalrous, honorable, all of those yummy, yummy things. So I'm telling you, women, go find yourself a knight, but make sure that they're in the light with it, because it can get pretty sketchy when they're in the shadow. All of these archetypes, you guys, all of these archetypes are amazing. In fact, foreshadowing, one of my favorite archetypes when it's in the light is seen as one of the most negative archetypes, and that's the bully. So we'll be going into that, but there are a lot of times words that we've associated with only negativity it's incorrect. There's a light side to everything, and vice versa. Things we've associated with only positive have a shadow. Now, some of the shadows of these archetypes are worse than others. I will tell you that. But it's really, really interesting to start to look at, where are you? If one of these is your archetype, where are you in the realm of shadow, light? And often you'll kind of go back and forth. So that is the knight. I hope that this is interesting to you. I've got lots that I want to share with you about this archetype. The plan is we're going to intersperse them with other videos so you don't just get totally burned out. But this is kind of a big chunky thing I'm taking on here by explaining these archetypes. And I promise if we haven't gotten to one of yours yet, we will. Okay? So I'll be teaching you more about that. I hope you all have a wonderful day. May your coffee be strong and your life be blessed.